Well, certainly in 50 years of my lifetime, I was born at Mooney, whereas the very first commercial oil fields in Australia had been created. They're actually on our family properties. So for 50 years, our family's been in negotiations with companies and dealing with it and lived to coexist. So, and as of today, we are still farming around the gas wells and oil wells that are there. So there is some coexistence that can occur, but under good negotiations. I think that's probably a strong one. But myself, I've been local government nearly 22 years now. And the reason why I went into local government was solely because somebody polluted my river. So not from the energy sector, but from a feedlot sector. So I have a real concern with the environment, and that's probably my key issue. And being mayor of such a large region with 23 towns and 99 small communities, I'm very hell-bent on protecting communities and the people. They're our number one resource, is our people.
Okay, so you mentioned that it's a very large area geographically. It's got, I guess, some very different interests in it as well. You've got the towns, you've got the blockies, you've got people on larger properties. Just as you move about the community, do you find there's a difference in view and a difference in impact from coal seam gas and the activity it generates?
Certainly over the last 20 years, I've noticed that very early in the piece, everyone wanted development. And, you know, they wanted jobs, be able to stop our rural drift from our young people going to the eastern seaboard. All of a sudden, we've been thrust with an energy sector that's just been dumped on us. And all forms of energy, whether it's coal seam gas, underground coal gasification, open cut coal mining, underground coal mining. We have an enormous array, 38,000 square kilometres. Every square foot has coal at it at some depth. Now, obviously,
so all over the Western Downs.
The whole of the Western Downs. I mean, you know, we're looking at about 80 to 85% of the Surat Basin is here. So it is a huge issue. We have 6 power stations already, many in the programs ahead of us. And we know what this wealth is for our state and nation. We know that. But our wealth is our people too, to make sure that we have a lifeblood ahead of us. We are a very strong agricultural sector. Now, the comment in relation to those in favour and against, well, I have 10% of the population here very anti coal seam gas or development. I also have 10% very pro coal seam gas and development. But I have 80% of the population that want more information. And I think this is critical from both our state and federal governments to be very transparent, very upfront. All the information's got to be out there as quick as we can to our communities so they can determine whether the activities are in favour of it or against it. Now, look, life changes. I'm well aware of that. Everything that humans do, everywhere we walk, we have an impact on this earth. We're going to continue to have that impact. We must minimise it. So I'm not saying no coal seam gas or no coal mines or anything else like that. I'm saying let's make sure the research is done right. Let's make sure that their impact to our communities is beneficial. Even though there is an impact, acknowledge it, and what can we sustain?
How well do you think the state and federal government are handling those sort of issues of communication and you know, all the bureaucracy and the various different types of, you know, impact assessments that have to be done?
Certainly over the last 4 years, I mean, we've been hell-bent, we've been on the hammer the whole time. And look, I will praise, but I'll also bucket organisations that don't assist with our people. Now, obviously the government, over particularly the last 9 to 12 months, have changed their views greatly in relation to policy to try and address some of the issues. Is it in arrears? Of course it is, because they didn't have the information straight up. Now a lot of this information has come to light. It's very important that policies are addressed. Make sure that their rules and regulations are in place. That's fine, but make sure they're complied with. Now it's the state government's responsibility. They're the ones that issue the permit to make sure these companies and all developments are complied with. So we need the bulldog with the teeth to make sure this happens. And I want the state government to make sure that they're in that power. If a proponent does not do the right thing, pull their tenement. See what happens then. The companies will change tune very quickly to make sure must protect it.
Okay. So, you know, are there problems with non-compliance at the moment?
Oh, look, I'm sure a lot of the system needs to be upgraded. I have real issues even with the strategic cropping land policy. There's a lot of bouquets out there at the moment saying how wonderful this is. I still believe it's a stepping stone. There are more things we need to do to make sure that policy is correct, to protect prime agricultural land. Now, that's not protecting all land. We still must protect every square foot of our country. And it doesn't matter whether it's Goanna country or beautiful black soil. It is somebody's land, it's somebody's castle, and they've got to be respected too as landholders. But there's new laws in place for the underground water aquifers where we're waiting on the modelling to come through. Very important, very crucial. Yep. That's one of our greatest assets this country has. And we all talk about the Great Barrier Reef. The Great Artesian Basin is the lifeblood of our country. Without it, don't worry about coming west of the Great Divide, because there won't be anything here for them.
Okay. With you know, one of the pictures, I guess, that you know, a lot of people in terms of population, economic development would say why people might want to, you know, as you say, come and live west of the Great Divide is lifestyle. And you know, how does coal seam gas impact differentially on the lifestyle of, you know, different types of folks around the area? You know, say somebody on, you know, a large block, somebody who's a blockie, or, you know, somebody in town. Can you maybe just tell us a bit about that?
Well, certainly those in our urban areas, in our towns, are looking forward to development so they can actually increase their wealth. Yep. That's fine. So if we talk about lifestyle, what is lifestyle? Lifestyle in an urban setting where there's a commercial business is more backsides walking through the door, creating more wealth. Is that good? In their sense, yes, it is. The value of homes in urban centres, residential homes, have actually doubled in a lot of places. Is that good? Good for the landholder, not very good for somebody coming here to get a job because rentals go through the roof. Yep. So there's this flow-on effect. There's the winners and there's always the losers. When it comes to the rural setting, our small rural residential areas, small acreages, particularly in that Tara, Cumberland area, Kogan areas and that, certainly the impact there is huge. Now it works both ways. Once again, you ask one person what is lifestyle, they've come out here to live in tranquility, quiet, don't want to hear a vehicle. The next door neighbour to them actually wants a job, wants a bitumen road out the front, and all this, wants to be able to build a new home. Yep. Here is an opportunity, wonderful job. Which one's the right lifestyle? Everyone is different. On the rural acreages, the bigger size areas, impact, look, if it's on prime agricultural land and somebody puts a well right outside their bedroom window when they draw the blinds in the morning, they're not going to be impressed. It wouldn't matter how much money in compensation, I would never be impressed with that. So therefore, there's got to be very strict guidelines on where they can put wells, where they can put open cut mines, where they transport this product, where they stockpile this product. There's impact indirectly to a lot of people who are not directly impacted. So it's okay if I have a well on my property, but what about my neighbour?
Well, and for instance, as well, it might be that, you know, it's required that the salt be contained on site. And I could be down the road and I could be saying, well, how can they actually do that? How can they, you know, make that promise when, you know, if there's a bit of rain, where does it go?
Well, look, the mobilisation of salt's been one of the key issues from day one also. Yeah. Whenever you're bringing water to the surface and there's salt in it, what are you going to do with that product? Is there a way of actually value adding that product? We are at the headwaters, right upstream of the Murray-Darling catchment. I ask people in Adelaide, they don't want any more salt. So why should we be sending it down there? Yeah. No. If we've mobilised it, then it's got to be contained where it's been extracted from. Now, if we can value add that, where we import salt now into this country, can we utilise this salt? It is part, if you want to do business and play in our backyard, then you address these environmental issues. Then you can play with us.
Do you see any major difference between, you know, say Anna Bligh and Campbell Newman in the way that they're addressing this issue? I mean, do you think that that if, for instance, the LNP win the election, as most people appear to expect, that will change the whole scenario in terms of policy, where it impacts on this area in particular?
I think the election won't change a thing. I think whoever is in government at the time, they'll have a look at their finances and realise that we're in trouble. Yep. Our state government, you know, our financial ranking at the moment is not very good in Queensland, and even whichever side of politics gets in, do they need this wealth? The royalty checks from my regions alone is worth billions of dollars to the state's economy, and many, many more than that to the federal economy. The world is not a very pleasant place at the moment with financial crises going on everywhere. Will they be blinded by the royalty check? And that's the issue I've got. Our number one priority is our people. I want my grandson to be able to have a lifestyle here, particularly in agriculture. I'm sorry, I'm probably a bit biased to the agricultural side, but you can coexist if it's done correctly. And that's why whoever's in government, don't get blinded by the royalty check. Make sure it's complied with the rules and regulations. If you want the check, that's fine, but make sure everything is done correctly.